Hello, puppet. Welcome back to HRT. I hope your week was good. My week was swell. I really have been enjoying how much love and views and comments that have been on my last two videos that I posted. So I very much appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you. It's made me very happy. This week's guest is Anthony, who is 32, and he's very early in his transition. He's got definitely a unique experience that I haven't had other guests have. So I'm definitely very excited for you guys to hear it. He's definitely a baby trans, but he's also 32. So, like, definitely a really cool perspective. And he did great. I'm very excited for you guys to hear it. Patreon video. I just put out a new Patreon video with Nate where we read 74. 74 hate comments from a YouTube short that I posted the other day. And some of the comments are like, oh, you had nothing better to say? Like, you really fucking think I want to sit here and educate your ass? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have time for that.
We did.
Right,
you just didn't listen.
Go watch the goddamn video, bro. It's my day job. I'm not gonna fucking sit here and fucking educate you on this shit. Like, what the fuck?
It's my fucking day job.
We took, a really shitty situation and made it into something really enjoyable and fun. And we laughed the entire time. And it was fun. And I think at this point, if you're not subscribed to the Patreon, the HRT Patreon, you're missing out on a lot of HRT content. So do that. It would make me a very happy boy. Join the Discord. That's all I'm saying about that this time. And if you want to be a guest on HRT, there is a survey that you could take in my link tree that's in the description below and in the bios of my TikTok and Instagram. Take that survey. I will read your answers, and then I will ask you to be on, most likely. So do that so you can be on. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. That's about it. I hope you enjoy this episode. It was fun to record. I love Anthony, and that's about it. Hope you enjoy it. All right, guys. Bye. Where are you from?
Northern Colorado.
Northern Colorado. As I just said, I really love Colorado. I skied in Aspen last year. You said you snowboard.
Yeah. Yep.
I forgive you for snowboarding, but you said you used to ski?
Yeah.
Nice. And you went to Vail, right? You just said?
Yeah. I mean, I go there, every couple years, I think, but usually I go to like Breck or Loveland or something like that. Little smaller places. They're a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, right. Aspen was dumb expensive. Like,
dude, it's insane. Lift tickets are like, I don't know, like $400 a day. It's crazy.
Yeah. I have like an Icon pass, so like I can ski wherever for free for like a year or whatever. But even the Icon pass itself is like not much better. So.
Oh yeah. It's really only worth it if you can go like, every couple weekends or so. Like you really have to go a lot to make the passes worth it.
It's a dream to live in Colorado, though. Isn't Colorado like? Because I remember flying over Colorado, half of it was covered in snow and the other half was not. Is that like a common thing there?
Yeah, so like it's the mountain corridors and stuff, and like everything east gets shitloads of snow. The western slope kind of does too, but it's just, I mean, Colorado in the winter, we get quite a bit of snow. We can also have like 70-degree days. Like it's the early November and it's like 70 degrees still. It's kind of nuts.
Oh, I wish, bro. It's like 50 degrees now here. I like the cold though.
Yeah.
But how is Northern Colorado with trans stuff?
It's actually pretty good. We have a lot of like state laws that protect trans people and like LGBTQ rights in general and stuff. So it's considered like a safe state for trans rights as well as like reproductive rights and stuff like that. So.
Wow, I never knew that. More of a reason to fucking move to Colorado. What the fuck?
Yeah, you all come to Colorado.
Right.
But maybe don't, because it's really expensive to live here too. So.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's like dumb expensive to live in New York though too. Like,
oh my god,
nowhere safe. Nowhere safe, really.
I've got family in the city, so I definitely feel you.
Let me ask you: are you on testosterone?
I am actually. I just started like 2 months ago, so not for very long.
Congratulations. That's awesome
Thank you.
now.
Thank you.
Do you do injections or are you on the gel?
I'm on gel. Yeah.
Slay. How's that going?
Yep. I kind of really like the gel. I have a really massive needle phobia, so
Mm,
not dealing with the pain and like still getting to start to be me is really nice.
mm. I, I get that. I feel like, I don't know. I say a lot of shit when I'm talking about testosterone that, like, really, I'll probably never do and I'll never understand. But, like, in my when I get older, I see myself coming off of injections. To be honest, I see myself switching to gel. When I'm talking like old, like watch me old, like 30 years old. No, I mean like
Yeah.
old, like 60s. When I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't care
Yeah, it
anymore. Just give
seems
it to
like
me.
such a hassle, you know?
Yeah, it really is. I won't lie. I mean, like, it's a privilege, and I know that, but I hate it.
Yep, for sure.
But what's your dose for the gel?
I'm on the like 1.25% like gel, and it's like one pump a day, so I think it's like 20.25 milligrams a day.
Hmm, one pump a day. Now, where do you put that? Like on your
Um,
shoulder?
yeah, like here and like back
Mm,
on my shoulder blade and stuff.
mm.
That's basically what the instructions say, but I've heard like it doesn't really matter where you put it as long as you put it like on like a muscle.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know it should go on a muscle. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think the instructions are different for different like brands of the gel, so
Mm. That's
it's
cool.
probably
I didn't
different
even know
for
there
some
was different
others.
brands. Wow.
Yeah. The
Let's
more
talk
you know.
more about your shot anxiety, needle
Ugh,
phobia.
yeah.
Have you always had that?
Um, I don't know, not like always. I had jaw surgery when I was a teenager, so
Oh,
yeah,
jaw surgery
kind
is
of.
like intense.
Yeah, dude, it was pretty massive. I had like a really big underbite, and so
Mm.
they, did a bunch of like restructuring and shit. I've got like plates and screws and stuff, and
I would have never known. Like, cause like
yeah.
Zac Efron, I think, just like got major jaw surgery, and he don't. That's not my Zac Efron. He don't look like Zac Efron anymore.
Oh yeah, I looked way different as a kid. Way different.
Wow,
Like,
that's crazy.
yeah.
So you said that's kind of where you think it started, or
Yeah. So like I had to give like a pint of my own blood and stuff and
oh
like as an emergency situation, like in case something went
my
wrong.
god,
Um
oh
and
my
then
god.
yeah, like I guess like the nurse couldn't like find my veins and so like they stabbed me a shitload of times and
Mm,
yeah,
that'll
no.
do it.
I'm
That'll
not about
definitely
it.
give somebody a phobia for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
Not about it.
now, is that something? Do you want to be on injections one day, or are you straight chilling with the gel?
I think so. Yeah. Just I've I don't know. I've heard it's like more efficient, I guess, as far as like a delivery method.
The injections, yeah.
It's kind of, yeah, like a gray area, really, like which is more effective. But
Mm,
I like the consistency of the gel because I put it on every day, whereas shots are like, every week or every 2 weeks or
mm.
whatever it is. But I don't know. We'll see.
So do you think is that something you're like still thinking about, or like you want to make it a goal for yourself that you get on injections one day?
I think it's pretty much a goal. Also, like insurance is more likely to cover shots than gel. So there's that. Gel's kind of
True.
expensive, like really, really
Yeah.
expensive.
So I've
So
heard. I hate that. It's.
yeah,
I feel like I don't know. Is it more expensive
I think so.
than injections? Probably. That's
Yeah,
dumb.
I
I feel like
I
injections should be
think
more.
when I went to buy it without like a coupon or whatever, it was like $150 for a 2 month
Mm,
supply.
it's like that. Yeah. To such the hormones were 100 for me before I
Mm,
had the insurance. So that's wild.
yeah,
Well, damn.
yeah.
Now, I know that the gel, obviously, you just said it's more consistent. You're doing it every day, and
Hmm.
I know you've only been on it for 2 months. But have you noticed like a shift in like your mood and like mood swings and
Oh
stuff with
yeah.
the gel?
Well,
Yeah,
not like mood swings necessarily. Like unless my cycle is coming up because that hasn't stopped yet. Um,
that sucks.
dude, it's fucking brutal.
I bet, bro.
um,
Damn.
but hoping that happens soon. But like immediately, like the mental clarity was just vastly different. It was
Mhm.
like a night and day difference in like how I felt like emotionally and like more stable, and like I feel like I regulate my emotions a lot better. Just being on testosterone in general. So I don't
Mhm.
have anything to compare it to since haven't done shots before, but it's
Mhm.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm assuming because, like, I guess I know that we just said that hormones, I guess, make the process go faster or whatever. But like, I would assume you're on injections. Like, your voice is pretty deep for someone who's on gel
Right.
and only for 2 months. So like,
Damn.
damn.
Well, that's really nice to hear. Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. I
I was a little anxious about that.
I know. Wheezing really bad. Sorry.
Oh,
I
you're
always
totally fine.
feel I always feel like kind of bad for because obviously all my guests are gonna be trans and trans people struggle with their voice. So I'm like, I feel like I'm
Yep.
forcing people to come on
Oh
and like
no.
out themselves with their voice. But
Nah.
um, now question: do you think that would you be more afraid to inject yourself, or do you think it's more scary when somebody else would do it for you? Like, would you have somebody do it for you to start with injections?
Um, I would love to have somebody else do it for me.
Mhm.
I don't think my husband would be willing to do that, but I don't know. I think I would really struggle having to do it myself just because like I have such a hard time like looking at the needle, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I know. I get it. You do sub Q though. Sub Q is a little bit easier. I've heard because
Yeah.
it's a smaller needle and it
Yeah.
goes in easier, and I don't think you feel it as much. But you don't have to join the dark side of intramuscular. I get it. I get it.
You're crazy, man. Just crazy. I've
uh,
heard auto injectors are really nice for shot anxiety.
I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about that. I think you can get it off Amazon for like
Yeah, you
I don't even
can.
know how expensive it is, but yeah, I've been thinking about that. You still have to like draw it all up yourself and whatnot,
Hmm.
but you just put the whole thing in there and press a button.
Yep. One pop. It's done.
Yeah, I might do that to be honest.
Yeah,
Um, bum, 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 bum. Now, top surgery. Do you want it one day?
I do. Yep, I do.
Nice. Is that something you're like trying to? Is it in motion yet, or are you working your way up there?
No, I haven't set anything in motion like surgery wise. I kind of think I want to get like a histo first instead of
Mm.
top surgery first, but I'm not really sure. Kind of
Hmm.
depends on where like I end up feeling after a few months of tea.
I feel you. I feel you. Is I haven't talked a lot about histos yet. No one actually ever talks about histos. I feel like that's
Yep.
the surgery for trans guys everyone kind of forgets about.
Yeah, it's
uh,
definitely the one that I want the most. I think, to be
really?
honest. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I, me too, to be honest.
yeah.
But it's a hard decision to make. I won't
It
lie.
is kind of a hard decision.
Yeah. I want to talk more about that later because I
Yeah,
have a feeling it brings up one of our topics. So we're going to
yeah.
dive more into that later. Uh, so do you have a timeline for yourself with top surgery, or you want to because a lot of people want to give themselves like at least a year of being on testosterone first. Is that kind of your mindset?
Yeah, I think so. I just, want to give it some time and like make sure that I'm, on the right path, like for making like huge decisions and stuff like that.
Mm.
But it's
And how
definitely
old are you?
coming.
Yeah. How old are you again?
I'm 32.
32.
Yeah.
You are 6 years. I'm 24. How old? You're
S-
7
eight
years
years
older than me.
older.
I can't
8 years
count.
older. Yeah. It's all right.
uh, dude, I know it's a trans thing, and like me too. But dude, you could pass for like 21, 22,
Oh
like
yeah, I
for
look
real.
super young. The only thing I've got going for me is the few gray hairs that
Oh,
I
dude, I
refuse
get
I
gray hairs
refuse to
too.
get rid of.
That's so funny. Anybody else would be like, I fucking hate these gray hairs to make me look so old. But we're like,
Dude,
yes.
no, yeah, I'm like hell yeah. I need to look older.
No, for real. Do you get ID'd when you go out still? Like when you're drinking or something?
Um, Sometimes I don't know. It depends really like who I'm with, I think.
Mm. Yeah,
If
me
I'm
too.
like with a group of like younger people, then for sure I get ID'd. I think mostly just like so that they're IDing everybody.
Hmm.
But if I'm out with like my parents or whatever, it's a little bit less common.
I literally only get ID'd when I'm clean shaven. Like literally, that's the
That
only time. It's
tracks.
so weird
That
how that
tracks.
fucking works. All right. When did you come out as trans?
Just earlier this year. Yeah.
Really?
Uh
Oh
huh.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
I think
I'm
that's like
like,
the soonest anybody has come out yet on the podcast. That's great. I love that. Tell me
yeah,
about it.
it's a little weird being like a baby trans at 32. Like,
Yeah.
it's a strange fucking feeling. um, but yeah, I
That's
kind of
awesome.
like started questioning earlier this year. Came out to myself like April-ish. My husband like a few weeks after that, and then my parents like summer, and kind of trickling
Wow.
down, you know.
Wow. Well, congratulations, dude.
Thanks,
That's
thanks.
awesome. Now, let me ask how long before you came out did you know you were trans? Like how long were you closeted for, I guess?
um, I mean, like not very long. So I was basically repressing everything like super heavily, and like I didn't even know. Like I had no like inkling growing up or whatever that
Hmm.
this was coming. I, you know. And
Right.
so like when I started questioning everything, like just going around in circles in my head about like memories and like certain feelings and like how I'm relating to all the like trans memes that I see on the internet and like queer media and everything,
Hmm.
podcasts like this and like um, Jamie Dodger on YouTube. We watched a
Hmm.
lot of his videos and just like relating like really hard to like all of the stories, especially like coming out and realization stories and like
Hmm.
figuring all that stuff out. It just something finally clicked, and then I had to start talking about it with my husband, you know, because I can't make a decision like that without like
Right.
getting somebody else's like viewpoint.
How long have you guys been married?
8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And okay, so before I get into, how everyone took it, s- so your entire life you didn't have an inkling that you were trans
I don't
until
think so.
32?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's I think maybe one or two guests maybe have had similar stories, but I think that's the most like I had no idea until I was older story I've heard so far. So,
Yeah. It's strange, and like, you know, like looking back now, like there are obviously like things about my personality and like the way that I like interacted with people and like some of my interests and stuff like that where I'm like, yeah, okay, like I can see that, but I can also
mhm,
definitely understand why nobody had any idea. Like my parents didn't know, like I didn't know, my friends didn't really know, you know.
mhm. So was it like a huge surprise to everybody when you came on trans?
I got a lot of mixed like surprise reactions. My parents were kind of shocked, but
Mm.
like my husband and my best friends, they were all just like, duh. Like I've been a
That's funny.
mechanic for several years, so like I have shitloads of tools and like I love cars and
Mm.
fixing cars and like doing these like masculine things, so I don't think anybody was like really surprised that this this is me.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
literally went to the gas station to get my oil my
Oh god.
oil changed yesterday.
Bro.
And he was like, "Pop the trunk." I was like, "What?" You pop the hood. I said, "How?" I don't know how to
Oh,
do that.
oh man, Cody. Come to the car channel on the Discord, and I'll teach you some things.
Honestly, I
You
have
can
a lot of
change your own oil. It's
questions.
so easy, bro. It's so
I
easy.
know. I paid $50 because I didn't know how to do it
$50.
myself. Yeah, it's like
Shit.
really embarrassing.
Shit. It's all right. At least you didn't take it to the dealership like some people do.
I have before, but this time I was like, no, let's downgrade to the gas station.
If your car's not brand new, you can
Mm,
take it to any other place or do it yourself. Like,
good to know. Good to know. My mom was like, "Do you want me to do it for you?" And I was like, "I can't have my mom change my oil for me.
that
I
would be
can't. I
adorable, though.
can't."
I would love that. That would be so cute.
uh, that's really cool though. Does that like this might be a little off topic, but does has you were a mechanic before you came out of trans, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Now that you are a man, does being a mechanic give you gender euphoria now?
Oh,
Like, does it
yeah.
feel different? Yeah.
Uh, I don't know that it like feels different. Like, I mean, I guess. So I was a like general repair before, and
Mm,
like working as like a woman in the industry was, to be honest, just awful.
yeah,
Like
I can imagine
rampant sexism, so
that.
much misogyny. Like it was just terrible.
Mm.
Even in Colorado. Like I went to Texas once though and like walked into an auto parts store and almost just like screamed and left because the treatment was horrendous.
No, like I bet. Like
It
that
was
sounds
like,
horrible.
yeah, it was crazy. But like now I basically just like work out of my own garage, and so like I get to pick all of my own customers. Like they're all people that I know from work or like my neighbors and my
Oh
friends and
shit.
stuff. So
Good for
it's
you,
a lot
dude.
easier. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I was a car guy. Damn it. So back to like before you were trans and like your whole life, I guess.
Yeah.
You you didn't have an inkling at all, but like since there were mixed reactions to when you came out, like how did you dress when you were growing up and stuff? Was it always like was it feminine, masculine, in between?
Pretty gender nonconforming. I kind of always just like rocked like a t-shirt and like jeans, I guess. I had
Excellent.
always avoided like dresses and skirts and shit like that. It was pretty rare for me to wear
Mm,
them. Obviously, like special occasions, I would let my parents force me into a
mm-hmm,
dress or a skirt, but I didn't like it. Like,
mm-hmm,
um, I, but yeah, I guess I've always been like mostly a tomboy, kind of just like
mm-hmm.
a little bit hippie, kind of
It's
alt punk rock metalhead. Like I've
I
got
love
like a
you for
bunch of
that.
facial piercings and tattoos, and so
Hell yeah, dude. I love
yeah,
that. That's what I think. I think before I came out as trans, I was very alternative, listening to punk rock music and stuff, and I think I used that a little bit. I still am. It was not a phase, but I think I used dressing like that as like an excuse for not being like really feminine. I think
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
and I think I'm just coming to that realization now. So,
yeah. I definitely. It's interesting how we like present our identities through like our clothing when we don't really know like
Mhm.
ourselves, especially
Right.
because clothing is both like a security blanket. Your presentation kind of, you can choose to change it in order to come off in a different way, right? And if it's safer to present feminine, then you can wear girly clothes and still
Mm,
be a man, and then just like me too, like I kind of hid in like the metalhead kind of vibe and like the tomboy vibe because that's just
mhm.
where I felt more comfortable.
Right. I think everybody's choice of clothing definitely is a tell
Yeah.
to who they are, even if they're not trans. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
style and clothing is everything. I say that
it
all the
is.
time.
Yeah.
So you said that everybody around you, loved ones, kind of gave you mixed reactions to you coming out. Do you want to talk about that? Your coming out story a little bit?
Tell my coming out story to my husband or
Yeah, if you want, we could start with your husband and then move on to your other loved one. That works.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the easiest. He's like my biggest ally at
We
this
love that.
point. Yeah. But so like we've always had like little basic pride flags in our house. Like I think you can see one behind me there.
Slay.
And just like all over because we've both always been kind of like bisexual.
Oh my God, slay.
And we had been like watching a bunch of media, like I said, and I had been questioning and everything. And then one night I turned to him and I was like, "So, I think I might be non-binary or maybe trans. Like really like hesitant and like scared
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And we're just sitting on the couch and he just like looks up at me like super casual and smooth and just goes, "Does this mean that I can break out the trans flags now?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he goes to the other room and he grabs this like box of small matching trans flags that he had gotten and like had been hiding from me.
Aw.
And so I'm like happily trotting around the house, like putting them out to match like in like locations and everything. And then I stop in the hallway because it clicked in my brain what the fuck just happened. And I go and I say to him, "Did you see this coming?" And he was just like, "Well, yeah, like we've been married for 8 years. Like I know you really well." And I was just like, "What? Like that's insane." Like so he knew before I knew, and it
Wow.
just kind of blew my mind a little bit. So
That's the cutest fucking story I've ever
yeah,
heard in my life. Oh my
I
god.
I love it. It's just I melted into a puddle of goo, like
Oh my god, I would
just
too.
emotionally.
See, that's how you fucking do it. Like,
Yeah,
that's amazing because, like,
yeah,
he didn't push you. Like, he waited for you to bring it up. Like, and I think, at some point, like, if you notice your partner, like, is scared to tell you and, like, you don't really think they're going to it, like, anytime soon, I think it's okay to be like, hey, like, nudge, nudge. Like, how do you feel about
yeah,
this? And I'm sure he would have if, like, time went on further. But, like, that's perfect. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Completely, like, the ball was in your court. I'm ready when you're ready to tell me.
yeah.
Oh,
It was super sweet,
and the
and like
flags. Oh.
he I kind of feel like he ramped up the number of like trans videos that we were watching on like YouTube and stuff together because we just like sit on the couch and watch YouTube together mostly.
Mhm.
And like he started varying the YouTubers that we were watching. So we started watching Ty Turner too. And then like over time, seeing like more transition videos and like coming out stories. And yeah, so he did kind of like nudge me very gently and not like pushing me into it, but just like
Mhm.
here's some people you can relate to maybe.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. I'm glad
Yeah,
that went well for you.
yeah,
That's
thanks.
all it takes. Like, and you said you've been married 8 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Like
So I got married
that's
when I was 24.
wow. Look at
Yeah,
that. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's really cool. I'm happy for you.
thanks.
Now, you said when you came out to him, you didn't know if you were non-binary or a binary trans man, right?
Yeah, I was definitely leaning towards binary trans,
Mhm.
but I didn't know how it was going to go over, right? So I kind of picked like a little bit more of a gray area.
Mhm.
Um, as far as like that goes, I basically wanted to just try out all kinds of pronouns and like see how they felt, because I
Mhm.
didn't know.
Yeah, right. Now, was there like a process for like how long did you go by? Did you like, go by they them pronouns for a little bit?
No, actually, I um we kind of just started trying with he him
Mhm.
immediately, like at home and stuff, and like started brainstorming names and like
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then I decided to order a binder to, see how that felt. And like, I wasn't even in therapy yet. Like, this was still all like self powered questioning and trying things out and
Mhm.
stuff. Thank God for Reddit and like the suggestions of like baby trans forums and stuff like that. Like, holy shit.
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
um, and my binder actually arrived like as I was coming out to my best friend and like a couple other friends. And so I like rushed inside and tried on the binder or whatever. And like I had just told them that I was trying he, they pronouns.
Mhm.
And so I go put the binder on and just like, dude, that feeling was just incredible. And my one friend, I guess, as he was leaving, he's also trans. And so as they were leaving, he turned to my best friend and said that he was pretty sure that I was just binary trans. Like the joy from like the binder, he was like, yeah, it was pretty clear to him. So I yeah, I kind of went with he, him, and binary, and just never looked back. So,
Hell yeah, as you should. That's awesome. You also had the supportive friends. Was your trans friend trans like way before you came out as trans?
yeah. So actually, he's kind of like a newer acquaintance. Like I don't know
Mhm.
him super well, but he
It's
came
still
around, was
good
my
to
best
know
friend.
somebody. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, now I want to ask: was your husband, do you think, like the scariest person to come out to, or no? Just because you've
No,
been married, or you were the most comfortable with him?
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That's how it should
Like
be.
we've
I
always
like that.
been really close.
Good.
So
That's awesome. And then from your husband, you came out to some friends afterwards, or was it any family members after?
no, I actually kind of went with my friends first.
So,
Again, kind of to just like judge their reactions and like
mm-hmm,
see if this like actually made sense. I guess.
mm-hmm,
I guess part of like figuring this out in myself was just that like I don't know if I was sure like, and like the imposter syndrome was like really thick, right? Like I definitely was like this has got to be me being crazy or just completely off base. And after every coming out that I did to like friends, I
mm-hmm,
just got more and more sure. And like everyone was like, yeah, this, I mean, like I'm maybe surprised, but like this definitely makes sense. And so
right,
like having that like feedback was a
mm-hmm.
huge confidence boost. And then after I had been in therapy for a little while, I came out to my parents.
Isn't it fucking wild how, like, because you're just talking about imposter syndrome, isn't it wild how, like, society has so much impact on your identity and how you feel about your own fucking identity? Like,
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
it's crazy.
Oh.
It's so crazy.
Now, how was coming out to your parents after that?
Um, I was really nervous. My family, or my dad at least, is pretty religious. And so for obvious reasons, I was kind of nervous about that. They go to a pretty accepting church.
Mm-hmm.
It's ecumenical Catholic instead of like Roman Catholic or evangelical or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like our pastor is gay, um, and
Good.
like there's trans people in that community as well, and um, so there was some suspicion that like coming out would be fine, and like I'm bisexual, and like my birth mom is also bisexual, and like so my family's pretty accepting, but like obviously I
Hell
was
yeah.
nervous.
Yeah. No matter what, you're gonna be nervous. I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
How'd they take it?
Pretty well. They were surprised, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
but I basically like kind of blurted it out, and then my mom hugged me, and they told me that they loved me, and I burst into tears, and then my mom was like whispering in my ear as she's hugging me, like, you know, did you think that we were gonna reject you? And like I didn't have words, I just like nodded into her shoulder, and I'm just like crying, and they're like hugging me, and I'm just it was good. But after the initial like blurting out of this fact about me, we like went to dinner and like talked it over, and you know,
Wow.
yeah,
That is awesome.
yeah.
Oh, I
So
rarely get like a lot of people come on here and like, yeah, my family hates me and I don't talk to them anymore and it's so sad and like, it's good. It's refreshing to hear that. So
yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad.
It's nice, and I feel very lucky that I have such an amazing support system. So far I haven't. I think I only have like a few extended family members who don't like this.
Who don't like this? Do you have to see them often or no?
No, we do like family reunions,
Mhm.
like every couple years, but I don't really know if I'm how many of those I'll attend in the future. Um, I just came out to my extended family like a couple weeks ago, so
I love that.
this is a little bit fresh, I guess.
Yeah,
So
no. Wow. Yeah.
yeah,
I guess I'm not realizing how fresh it is just because I haven't had a guest who's like so baby
Yeah.
trans.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm baby trans. Baby trans.
and you're here. Like, look
I'm
at
here.
this. Like, you're making moves. I'm proud of you. Good job.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've kind of been like a thing of like fear, like a game with fear that I've been playing where if I'm afraid to do something, it probably means I should do it. And
mm-hmm.
like I was terrified to come on this podcast, but I am so glad that I am doing it because I get to talk to you and like, maybe help some other baby trans people, especially older baby trans people who
Right.
are just like figuring this out and stuff.
I hear you. I'm glad too. I mean, my whole point of this is to find people from every walks of the trans experience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And again, I hope somebody's out there who's also a baby trans who can relate as well.
Yeah.
And can
Yeah, you're
relate to
doing
my
great.
goddamn wheezing. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Um, so we have a supportive family. All in all,
Yes. Yes,
wow,
for the most part. Yeah. Yeah.
nice.
It's been pretty good.
That makes the holidays easier, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. My brother was a little weirded out, I think initially, but like after I like talked to him and like told him about like how I was feeling, he definitely came around pretty quick. And I think he was mostly concerned for his daughter. Like I've got a niece who's just turned 3, so
Mhm.
they were a little like, oh, like how's this gonna go down? Because it's not
Mhm.
something they were expecting to have to explain to her. But
Right now, how old's your brother?
uh, shit, how old is he? 29, 28,
Mm.
28.
My sister's also 28 or 29. Oh my god, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. uh, with a kid who's about to be 2, so
Nice.
I now, well, you're freshly trans, so I guess that makes sense. How with the kid, that was his only really concern.
Yeah.
Um, but that's all like squared away. Like, did you have a conversation of how that was going to go with your niece? Did you say?
Yeah, my niece. So we like didn't like really explain anything to her. I mean, she's only 3, right? She
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
super have a concept of gender. She's
Mm.
getting there. But basically, like my brother and his, like my niece's mom, they're not together.
Mm.
But they've basically just like told her my name and like that I'm her uncle and like she's young enough that she's not going to remember me being her
Mm.
aunt.
Mm.
And my nickname is Aunt actually. So she's been skipping around my parents' house in glee calling me Aunt. And it's so cute that I kind of want to let it stand. Like
Yeah.
being called Aunt doesn't bother me as far as like a gendered language goes.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's cute.
Because it's coming
So
from a little kid. I totally get that. Like,
exactly, yeah.
she
And
doesn't. She doesn't know.
yeah. She'll only like the thing with kids is like hate is not born. Like
Right.
hate is taught, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Only love is
100%.
born. So like she loves me for me. She doesn't know me as anything other than, you know, her family member. Like
Exactly.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
So
I would let my nephew fucking call me whatever he wanted. He can't say my name yet. He could get the he could do
cute.
the k and he could do the d. So
Yeah.
he just ends up going d. And I'm like, okay, that works, I guess.
Yeah, it's whatever.
But I want to ask you if you have gender dysphoria and how you deal with it, if you do.
I do. Yeah.
Sorry to
Um
hear it.
kind of comes with the territory, right?
Mhm.
um I didn't when I first like came out as trans and like started finding my identity, I actually didn't think I had gender dysphoria because I
Mm.
didn't know that I was trans from a young age, right? And like I
Mhm.
didn't know really what gender dysphoria meant at all. So like I sought therapy because I didn't understand how I could be trans without having gender dysphoria. And
Mm.
so I went to my therapist, we started working through some stuff and like having discussions about like the spectrum of gender identity and like where I feel like I fall and like, you know, what is wrong with a masculine woman, you know? Well,
Mm-hmm.
nothing is the answer. You can
Mm-hmm.
present however you wish. But it was more about like how I felt about myself and like after like kind of processing a lot of those thoughts and feelings and stuff, then the dysphoria was really only revealed by euphoria. So I had euphoria before I had dysphoria. If that,
Mm.
I may have said that wrong, but
No, no, that makes sense. And that's something that's not talked about enough within the trans community too,
yeah,
I think. Because obviously the whole do you need gender dysphoria to be trans is a large topic within our community. And
it's huge.
yeah, no matter where you stand on it too, like it doesn't even matter. Like no matter what, we should all respect anybody's pronouns, whatever they
Yeah,
wish. Like you can't tell someone they're not trans. But I do feel like I know I had gender dysphoria when I was younger, but not as intensely, and I had no fucking clue what it was. Like I was just like, oh, I just don't like dresses. I just don't like
yeah,
that and this and blah blah blah. I don't think I necessarily truly had gender dysphoria until I realized I was trans. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
yeah.
I feel like it doesn't make
I,
sense, but like it somehow does. I don't know.
I no, I think it does make sense. And the way I like kind of looked at it was when I was growing up and when I didn't know, it was more of like a social dysphoria, right? And so you got dysphoric about the way you were treated as a little girl or
Mhm.
whatever, or like, you know, getting yelled at for having grass stains on your knees or manspreading in a dress or something along
Mhm.
those lines. When people see you as a little girl, that's like social dysphoria and you feel like discomfort from that. And then at least for me, and maybe it sounds like for you too, like when you realized you're trans, then it kind of morphed into, oh, hey, this is also physical as well.
Mhm. Right. Like it doesn't mean that it wasn't always there. It just wasn't as easy to realize until like a whole new you got like a whole new perspective of being of what being trans was, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, I get that.
I, to, when I was explaining it to a close cis guy friend of mine, I used kind of like an itchy sweater analogy. So, like, say you're given a sweater when you're born, right? And it's made of like canvas or something terrible to wear.
Mhm.
Um, and it's the only sweater that you know. But then, like, you're going through life in this uncomfortable sweater, but you don't know why it's uncomfortable. You don't have anything to compare it to. And so then somebody gives you this really cozy, fluffy, you know, dysphoria hoodie.
Right.
And you know, you put it on, and then suddenly, now that you've got something to compare it to, now you know that that sweater, that body that you were given, is not the way it should be to your own
Mm.
brain.
Mm. I like that. I think you just explained what being trans is.
I guess.
It does. I like that a lot because it's true. I mean, like, I don't know. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, if you didn't have gender dysphoria before you were trans, then you're not trans, and that's not true. I
Yeah,
can understand the argument of like, if you don't have gender dysphoria at all, then you're not trans. Doesn't matter what my opinion is, but I definitely don't agree with like if you didn't have it when you were younger, because like I think every trans person had it or has it, but can't always understand what it is because
exactly.
gender dysphoria comes in so many different shapes and sizes, which I know I've said a million times, but like it's so true.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people forget about social dysphoria too. I forget about it. I'm like, why am I uncomfortable right now? Oh yeah. Well, that makes sense. Because I'm
Yeah,
dysphoric.
yeah. I
uh
was
good. Sorry.
I was telling a story to some of my extended family, also kind of as a way of like explaining social dysphoria as well, and like, you know, when there's like a bunch of chairs that need cleaning up or boxes that need moved, someone will come in and call for a bunch of big, strong men to go help them move things. And I would stand up and go to help move things and then immediately get a funny look, or, like, we ask for big, strong men, not skinny,
Right.
female appearing people. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Those were the times that always got me too.
yeah.
Oh, and then I turn into this like toxic little man who was like, I could do it.
Dude, yeah.
Like, shut
Ugh,
up, sit down. Like,
yeah.
you know you
Just
can.
get
It's
over
fine,
it. Like, it's
Cody.
fine.
Like,
Yeah.
no, like dead
Yeah.
ass. Now I want to dive more into how you didn't know from a young age.
Yeah.
I've kind of made that a topic for today. Because not a lot of trans people. There's a lot that can relate to that. There's a lot of
Yeah.
trans people who can relate to that, but there's also a lot who can't. So I want to make it more aware, I guess. So again, a lot of people define the trans experience as always knowing something was off, but do you like, does that feel like it like alienates you, or does that bother you at all, do you think?
I don't really think that it bothers me that I have, like an experience that's outside of the norm, I
Hmm.
guess. Um, because, you're right. There are kind of a lot of trans people who didn't know, and then there's a lot of people who did know. And what doesn't bother me, or like, I don't know, it makes me feel like I have more to prove
Mm.
when it comes to being trans, because I get a lot more questions of like, oh, well, why now? Or how did you know, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Right.
And that can be hard to explain, but I don't know, it still doesn't necessarily bother me, because like society when I was a teenager was just really different, right? Like, gay people didn't even have the right to get married in any of the country, I don't think.
That's wild
Um,
to think
yeah,
about.
and so there have been massive social strides as far as like who is accepted and who has rights and stuff like that. It should be everybody and should have always been everybody, but obviously that's not the case. And so, because of the way I was raised, right, with like, this kind of gets into like internalized transphobia territory as well,
Hmm.
as like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's kind of just a thing. It doesn't bother me, but it exists.
Right. And I mean, like, how could you make someone feel alienated for not always knowing when everybody has a different childhood? Like,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
it also goes to show that people think that there's not a lot of trans people because
Yeah.
it,
Ugh,
there's so many of us that not everyone's going to have the same experience. Like,
exactly.
we all come from
I
like the same places for sure. Like, we all share the same struggles, but like vastly different across the board,
mhm,
you know?
mhm, yeah. I read a statistic that, so it's like 1 to 2% of people are trans, globally, and that is the same number of redheaded people in the world.
Hmm.
So
Right.
the same number of people with red hair is the same number of people with some like gender
Right. Hmm.
variance.
Yeah. And I've said it again. I have redheaded friends. So, like, that's like that's a good amount of people. Like,
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Yeah, and there are going to be so many different stories when you're talking about massive numbers like that.
mm. Now, I know this may be the same question. It may be a little different, but did not knowing until a later age make you feel like, the whole you're not trans enough type thing, like between other trans people?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it did. I still kind of struggle with this a little bit, just
Mhm.
again because it's really early on in my
Right.
transition,
I know.
and I mentioned like feeling like I have more to prove, and so yeah, like there are definitely times where I'm like, there's no way I'm trans enough. Like I didn't
Mm,
know from the time I was 3 or 4 or whatever, but like that narrative that everyone has the same experience is just really harmful and gatekeepy.
mm-hmm.
Like it prevents so many people like me and like anybody else who didn't figure it out until later, from finding their identity at a time when they can really do something about it.
True. Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, also, like, the whole trans enough statement comes from within the trans community, which is really sad.
It is.
And I'm like, not a lot of cis people know the term or would understand the term trans enough, I don't think. But
Yeah.
it sucks that it comes from within, because I think sometimes the trans community can be very clicky and very
Yep.
high schooly. Like, who's the best one? Who? Like, oh my god, can we just? We're supposed to be different. Like, Jesus.
We're supposed to love everybody and like accept everybody because
Right.
that's what we're asking everybody else to do.
It's like the outcasts are making other outcasts. Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. Yeah, I definitely also think like that statement, like being trans enough and how it comes from within the community, is very much related to like toxic masculinity too, and like those kinds of like even being. So what I thought of was the term cis enough. So if you're not cis, like, you know, even cis people have to prove that they are cis enough or straight enough or normal enough, right? To exist in the society. And that's where we get toxic masculinity and women who put down or hate on other women because they feel jealousy or whatever. And so it comes from a place of insecurity, right? And it hurts everybody, you know, across the board, that type of thinking that somebody else is not enough in whatever trait is at play. That's the harmful part.
That's valid. That's something that I've never thought of, to be honest. I mean, that far into, I guess, like, because you're right. Everything, no matter if you're trans, cis, anywhere in between, anywhere outside of that, like, everything comes from insecurity, and insecurity drives everybody to be a dick, like,
Yeah,
and to
literally.
make everything a goddamn competition. So much like gender is a competition now, whether you're trans
It
or
is.
cis. Like, you're not
Yeah.
cis enough, like you said. Like, oh, I hate the world.
Yeah,
Bottom
dude.
line.
It's just like, let people live and be happy and mind your own
Right.
fucking business, you know?
Boggles my mind. Boggles my mind. Because, like, you don't
Yeah.
see me, like, I mean, I do a fair amount of shitting on some cis people on this podcast, but, like, not for, like, how they identify and how they choose
Right.
to live their life. I'm always coming at it like, you treat other people like shit, fuck you. But it's
Oh,
never
yeah.
like, I'm not coming at how they're living or choose to live their life. You know what I mean? That's the
Exactly.
difference.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Identity and like how you treat other people are completely separate issues. And so, like, shitting on cis people when they're being really shitty to us is entirely fair and expected. And they should be called out for spewing hate across the world and like dehumanizing.
Right. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about um what you had talked about in the survey, which I appreciate you taking, by the way. Another
Yeah.
plug. If you want to be on this podcast, I have a survey in my link tree. Go take it. I'll check it out, and you can be on the podcast. But I want to talk about what you wrote in there, because you said it had to do with your transition and what made you realize you were trans, maybe, and stuff. And it refers to what you were talking about earlier with the histo and whatnot.
Yep.
Do you want to maybe share a little bit?
Sure. So like I said, I've been married for 8 years, and part of being in a straight marriage is the expectation of having kids. I guess part of being in any marriage is maybe an expectation for kids. We weren't like really trying for kids. I mean, we kind of were trying for kids, but not like we never really wanted kids, but it was kind of like curiosity kind of thing. There's a little bit of a trigger warning here, just for anybody who doesn't want to like hear about pregnancy and pregnancy loss and stuff like that. But yeah, so we were just basically we stopped using condoms to have sex. That's, you
only one way to put that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I ended up getting pregnant. And it was kind of a surprise. I didn't really think it was going to happen, I guess, like, because, you always talk about, like, or people always talk about how hard it can be to get pregnant, I guess, if it doesn't happen, like, right away, and getting older, that gets harder and stuff too. So, but yeah, anyway, I got pregnant, and then I think it was really early on. I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks. But I ended up having a miscarriage. So that didn't work out. And we were pretty traumatized, I guess, by that experience. I was very shocked when I found out that I was pregnant. And so, like, I didn't even have time to get used to the idea of, like, I'm gonna have a kid, like, with my own body, like, and that's like a huge life-changing thing. And even though it didn't last very long, and like I didn't have time to get used to those like ideas and stuff, after it was over, I just really honestly remember feeling very relieved, and really guilty because of that relief. Because it's kind of like a confusing feeling to be relieved that you're not pregnant, after you were, I guess.
Right.
And but the relief was mostly just that, like, I wouldn't have to have the kid myself. And so, like, I'm not against like having a family or having kids necessarily, but I would adopt those kids probably. I'm adopted myself also, but so I would, like to spread the love. And there's so many kids in foster care that need homes and families and love and everything. But yeah, like, I didn't want to have the kid myself, and that was the biggest. That's where the relief came from. And kind of the guilt, because, you expect like most AFAB people to, even if they don't specifically want kids, like, be fine with having kids like themselves, right? Like, that's what AFAB bodies are meant for, I guess.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. From like a societal standpoint, 100%. And like before, you realize things about yourself, like 100%. Like,
Yeah.
so you obviously, this is, how long ago was this before you were trans?
This was early pandemic, so like 3 years, I think. So,
Okay.
yeah. And basically what ended up happening, like, because it was, a while ago, and like, that's 3 years is kind of a long time to still have no like clue, right? But after like being pregnant, like, my body feminized like pretty hard. Just because like that's still like a huge rush of hormones, especially right at the onset of pregnancy. Like, that's when your body is like flooded head to toe with, I don't remember the names of the pregnancy hormones, but they're there.
Yeah, right.
And like, my chest grew so much. Like, I think I went up a whole cup size, and it was terrible, just terrible. Like, I
Doesn't
wasn't
sound
big
fun.
before chest wise, but like, they got bouncier, and like, I was just, oh my God. And like, the sensations were just horrible. And so like, I slowly started getting more and more discomfortable, or like uncomfortable with my chest, and like starting to get those hints of physical dysphoria that I didn't know what it was.
That's
And
interesting.
that's, yeah, why when I got the binder for the first time, it was such an eye-opening and euphoric experience to not have to feel my chest like moving, I guess, on my chest,
Right.
if that makes sense.
No, that checks out. That makes sense.
And yeah, like, my hormones too, like, just, I got really depressed and like anxious, for the past few years, and just nothing was making it better, you know, and it would always get worse with my cycle, and like, and that also went insane, and you know, I started to suspect like PCOS and or maybe endometriosis, but I'm not really sure. I haven't been tested for either of those, but yeah.
Wow. So that's a traumatic experience, no matter how you feel about having
Yeah,
kids. That's a traumatic experience for
it was hard.
anybody. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that, by the way.
Thanks.
So through 3 years after that is the first time you were kind of like, okay, maybe that's why that was so hard for me, like physically at least.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Because like being pregnant and all those hormones and stuff, even for a cis woman who has no gender issues at all, like it's a hard thing to go through. I don't even know
Yeah.
how people do it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So do you think that maybe, because it's a traumatic experience, do you think maybe that kind of was a stepping stone and like kind of, I want to say the word boosted. I don't know why I want to say the word boosted, but like boosted you to kind of realize you were trans at the end of the day? Or no?
I think mostly just because of the nature of the trauma, like because it was related to like reproduction and like my own body, and like that's such an intimate like
Mm-hmm.
experience, I guess, in like any sense of the word. So yeah, it did kind of trigger me into like figuring this out about myself. Like if there are a few different like ways that I could have seen me never figuring out that I was trans and just living as a closeted cis woman for my whole life.
You think that's that like in like another universe that would be possible? Like you could have went like your
Maybe.
whole life without knowing?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I It's hard to like speculate on,
No, yeah, that's a insanely
that
hard
kind of
question I just
thing.
asked.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's a good question to think about too, but yeah, like I didn't there are ways that I would never have figured this out. But the trauma obviously I think was like the driving factor, for the realization, not necessarily for the identity, but
Right.
just for
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Because no matter what, like, and I think this goes for most trans people in the world, like, you are trans. You have always been. You were always trans. You just didn't know it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And just
Yeah.
because that trauma triggered you to realize doesn't mean it made you trans. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's things in my life that definitely gave me some trauma and which made me realize, oh shit, I'm a dude. But like that was always there. Those things
Yeah.
didn't need to happen for me to be trans. It made me realize, that's just how life works also.
Exactly.
Do you think if you went through a traumatic experience earlier in your life, you would have known earlier that you were trans? Or no?
Maybe. I don't know. I definitely am glad that my specific trauma didn't happen when I was younger, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the trauma, right? Like,
You're right. Yeah.
what happens, Because I mean, even like the surgery and like the reason for my like shot anxiety and stuff, like that's still like a medical trauma, and um, even like trauma is hard to define, right? And so like and the different severity of traumas and everything, and so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about like there is kind of a narrative too that trans people are trans because of trauma, and I don't know how I feel about that really. I do think that a lot of trans people have trauma in their past, but yeah, like you were just saying, that's not what makes us trans.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Because I don't know. That would also be saying, like, oh, you're gay because this happened early in your life. Like, no, that makes it not so much a choice, but it makes it like, I don't know the word, like a want to say default, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not this way because something happened. I'm this way because it was how I was born, and it's not a choice. Damn it.
It's not a choice. It's not a choice. I've been saying being trans is not a choice. Transitioning is the choice.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Fully get that. I think, yeah. I think medically transition
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, or socially, because you can
Yeah.
still be trans and not change your name, not change your pronouns, not change your presentation, not be on hormones, not have surgeries. You can be trans without doing any of the transitioning things. It's just
Mm,
when you make the choice to go on T or get top surgery or get a histo. Those are choices, but we are choosing them to make our lives better.
right. And because it's like the fucking question of, what is Matt Walsh? What does being a woman mean? What does being a man mean? Like, what does being trans mean? It does not mean transitioning. Being
Yeah,
trans, if someone were to define being trans, and I know it's like whatever, your body doesn't match, blah 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 blah, but like I would say being trans is not changing your name. It's not changing your gender. It's not going through all the motions. It's not getting surgery. It's not starting hormones. It is simply just knowing who you are and feeling specific power and like rightfulness and comfortableness with yourself. And
yeah,
honestly, at the end of the day, like, yes, it has everything to do with gender, but like, if we're really defining it, like, I don't think so. You know what I mean?
yeah. I agree. I agree. And I think that coming to realize that you're trans or having to fight so hard to find your identity makes our identities even more powerful, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Like, we have such strong senses of self because we have fought society, our bodies, our own brains, um,
Mm-hmm.
family members,
Mm-hmm.
religion, history. Like, we have fought so many things to be just ourselves, just to exist. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
that, like, trial by fire that we go through, just when you come out the other side of that, it's like you know that you fucking lived, right? Like, you're alive and you are vivid with it.
Right. No, like 100%. That's a really good way to put it. Because even, I don't know, being trans has, and I've said it before, but like being trans has made other points in my life easier, if that makes sense. Like other situations I was in easier because I learned how to deal with other things and like specific things through my transition. Like, I don't know. It's hard to be scared for a job interview when you had to go through like surgery and medically transitioning and socially transitioning. Like, it's like, okay, if I went through that, I could get through this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Yeah. There's
I
a
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just say something stupid like I usually do.
Word.
I was just gonna say that I would like to see like somebody like Matt Walsh, but like a liberal and like a good person, go on the street and be like, "What is being trans mean? What does transgender mean?" And I want to see what people who aren't as educated and haven't gone through it say, and then I want somebody to correct them. That's all I was gonna say.
As long as someone's there to correct them,
Right.
I think I could watch it. You're a little bit more brave than I am. I don't know.
uh, what were you gonna say though?
um, I don't even. I lost my train of thought. I think it's gone.
That's okay. I wanted to actually ask you something. Oh, does it make you sad that you didn't come out at a younger age? That you. I mean, I'm sure if you were to have lived your life as male for your whole life, I'm sure that would have been better, 100%. But still, does it make you sad that you didn't come out until how old are you? 32.
Yeah, 32. I don't know necessarily about sad. Um, I think I feel pretty okay with knowing or coming out when I did. I I'm very sure that I would not be me if I hadn't had the past that I did. Like, if I didn't fight so hard to try and be happy as a cis woman, or just to stay alive as a cis woman, you know, like dealing with depression and stuff since being a kid and everything, um, I fought really hard to be here, just in general. And so I don't know that I would really erase my past, or even rewrite it to try and pretend that I was a cis boy from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, birth. Um, I feel like my past kind of let me stay safe and come to the point where I could figure out that I'm a guy, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
Mm.
I think about like masks a lot, you know. So growing up, I basically just wore this tomboy mask because that's the only one that I had available to me, and that kept me safe and alive and reasonably happy, I guess. You know, like I didn't really know why I was sad, but just kind of
Mm.
went through life anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then when I finally got to be the point where I was safe and could come out and take that mask off, and underneath there's a trans man, cool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't have any intentions of like rewriting my past or trying to pretend that I was cis, because
Good.
that's a lot of time. First of all,
Yeah.
to rewrite, like 32 years is that's so many memories that I would just lose, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
I think there's a narrative for trans people to have to rewrite their
yeah,
past and change everything about themselves. I talked about this with in my episode with Clara, but
yeah. I was
there's
thinking about that.
such a narrative that trans people have to hate their past and have to hate everything about themselves in order to be happy. And again, that is not what being trans is. Like, and you
Yeah,
said 32 years is a long time to regret. You know what I mean? Like,
yep,
you don't have to regret ever not, or you don't have to regret not coming out sooner, or you don't even have to regret ever being cis. It's just like, okay, that's how the cards unfolded for me, unfortunately. But
yeah,
like, I'm sure, like, through all the confusion and like that you weren't aware you had about your gender identity, there was still so many, obviously there were still so many like good times and good memories where you were happy being a cis woman, but
exactly.
you didn't you didn't have all the information. You know what I mean? I don't
Yep.
know. I get that 100%. I don't think I would rewrite my past at all, because rewriting your past also means like I would have been born a cis man, and I don't want that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. And I don't know. I kind of like being trans. Like, I mean, it's terrifying, but I'm I like it. Like, it just to me it's just a label that means that I have done all that like personal work to really know myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's massively important. And so many
No,
cis
like, yeah.
people have no idea who they really are
Mm-hmm.
because they've never had to go through this experience
Mm-hmm.
or a similar experience, you know.
100%. And like, of course, like, yes, there's many struggles within the world, and you can't compare anything. But like, again, that that's a good way to put it, because if I feel like if a transphobic person were to hear what you just said, I like being trans, I like it, they'd be like, okay, well, you're mentally ill then. Because how could you, because even if I don't agree with being trans, like, you still have to go through a lot. How could you like that? How could you like having to put your body through all of this? How could you like your loved ones not accepting you? And it's like, again, you're boiling trans down to these like specific things that we have to go through. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, you wouldn't boil down being a cis woman to being able to get pregnant, or being able to, I mean, some people do and it's disgusting, but like, if you're smart enough, you don't boil down being a cis woman to being pregnant or getting your period, and you don't boil a cis man being down. You don't boil down. Okay. You don't boil down being a cis man to, I don't know, like, What does cis men do? Like, oh, I don't know.
Shit, we don't even know.
I don't know. Bottom line is just, I
You
feel like
don't boil
minds would be
cis.
blown.
Yeah, you don't boil cis men down to having a dick, right? Like they're, or being able to, I guess, ejaculate is like a
Yeah. Not like,
similar thing.
yeah.
I don't really know. It's kind of a weird. Yeah, it's just weird to boil trans people down to their genitals or like how
Right.
their reproductive systems work. Like,
Right.
who
And
cares?
yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of friggin' cis men out there that I can't say that fucking
Oh,
sentence, that thinks that it's that being a man means having a penis, but like
yeah.
that's old news. It's 2023. We don't have to do that anymore. I wanted to ask you though, before I forget, because I just remembered, we were talking about getting histo and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now, is that why? Because you had a miscarriage, you want to get a histo, and you don't want to have to go through that again? You think, or does it play more into being trans and like just getting
Uh,
the surgery for that reason?
yeah, it's definitely like a trans thing. I mean, it's obviously kind of both. Like, I have just this very intense fear of being pregnant at this point, like,
Mm.
and having to carry a child myself. And so getting a histo is kind of just a way to prevent something that I know I would not be able to handle. Like, I don't think I could go through being pregnant again. So there is that. But, also getting a histo from a trans perspective, like, I wouldn't have to deal with having a cycle anymore. It wouldn't matter if it takes, forever. Like, I wouldn't have to get pap smears, if certain bottom surgeries were to happen, like you don't have to worry about like um, the flood of hormones like estrogen, in your body that you're just naturally produce and stuff like that. So it's really kind of both, I guess.
100%. Yeah. Are you one of those people, do you think, that like, even given the trauma that you had to go through, like, do you think you're one of those people that, because for some trans people, for some trans men, they're like, get these organs out of me, I don't want them, they were never supposed to be there in the first place, get them away? Or do you think you're, I guess not because you want a histo, but like, for me, if I didn't have raging fucking cramps all the time, I
Cramps are the worst.
yeah, I I would kind of be like, I can't see them, I don't really care, like, you know what I mean? But like,
Gotcha.
since I it's a huge struggle lately for me, these fucking cramps, but which is why I do want a histo somewhere in the future. But do you think you could be one of those people that are like, get them out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
I,
Gives you
I
dysphoria.
shoo, yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's very very dysphoria inducing, like getting cramps and like just knowing they're there and everything, and yeah.
Yeah. No, it fucking sucks. Because like, I've been on testosterone for, it sucks that I don't even know anymore. I don't know, 7, 8 years. Oh my god, that's wild.
Damn.
Um, obviously I don't have a cycle anymore, but I get
You still get cramps though?
cramps. Yeah, like really
Mm.
badly. Uh, I don't know. I'm bad at keeping track with them and like when they occur, but it's always at night. It's always fucking at night when I'm trying to
Ugh.
sleep, and they might happen monthly. I've heard that it's like a phantom thing for trans guys who haven't gotten a histo yet and are no longer,
Oh,
doing that monthly cute little thing.
that sounds not
Yes,
fun.
so it's literally like nothing happens, it's just cramps. But the
Ugh.
type of cramps that make you want to literally murder yourself and everybody around you. Like, they're so bad, dude. I can't even
Yeah.
tell you. That's why it makes me dysphoric. Like, the pain makes me dysphoric because it feels similar to, other things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I think that's what I want a histo for too, is just not even because like I suspect that I had PCOS because I had like chin hairs
Mhm.
before even going on T, and that's kind of a thing with PCOS is which is polycystic ovary syndrome. um your body produces a little bit of T naturally, and it gives you really, really, really horrible cramps, cysts, usually, facial hair, a few other things. I don't know everything about it, but going on tea often helps that, and can like relieve those kinds of symptoms. But
That's interesting.
you know, if you get a histo, you just don't even have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, though, what scares me about getting a histo is that I would I would have to rely 100% on testosterone. Now, if you're getting like a full histo,
Yeah, if you're
you
getting a full one.
you have to like rely on testosterone. I think it scares me a little bit to have to rely on something that I'm not sure I'll always have access to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think if I when I finally do get a histo, I might leave like one ovary,
Mm,
because that's all you need is just one
sure.
to produce just a little bit of estrogen. Because yeah, like I mean, just thinking about like where the world is going, like even if we end up in a climate apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
testosterone's gonna be pretty hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's
you
true.
know, I guess, but maybe you're not really worried about that if it's a climate apocalypse. So
I
it's,
guess, yeah. That's
pick your
true.
battles: testosterone or how to feed yourself.
Right. uh, see, yeah, I don't know because I know somebody who got a full histo. No, has no more. He's got no more ovaries, nothing in there, and like he would
Awesome.
die without
Yeah.
testosterone. Though, like, I guess though
Well,
that
you
like,
don't really die, but yeah.
but how? What if you didn't take testosterone anymore? Wouldn't you like stop? Because you can't really produce estrogen anymore without that stuff, can you? Or am
So
I stupid?
you can survive for a while without hormones in your body that occur through injections or naturally produced. Um, it lends you to be way higher risk for osteoporosis, which is
Oh.
when your bones get like soft, I think. And so
Mm,
that can lead to just tons of health problems and eventually like really severe,
mm,
almost death kind of health
mm,
problems. But
right.
osteoporosis is generally the concern. And I think it takes like a really long time, like several years to actually
Mm,
develop that. But I could be
interesting.
wrong.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not like an immediate, like, oh my God, you're going to die kind of thing.
It's completely how I thought it went down.
It's all right. It won't happen.
uh, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Um, yeah, I kind of want to go back a little bit now and ask you more about like since you came out at an older age. Do you think you would have handled your do you think you handled your transition in more of a healthy and mature way since you did it when you were older compared to if you were to when you were younger?
Kind of, yeah. Uh, well, I think I wrote down hard yes. um, yeah, I do think that it's easier to transition when you're older. Um, Mostly because when you're a teenager, you're already going through like so many changes and like puberty. If you have a puberty, like if you don't go on blockers or something,
Mm,
like I remember how horrible puberty was. Just
yeah.
even when I thought I was a cis girl, like
Right.
dude, the rush of emotions and just like constantly being tired and upset and angry and like all these other things. Just no, thank you.
You know.
Um, I don't want to add being trans and being demonized on top of that.
Right.
Like, you know, um, yeah, I think that the other thing too is like when you're a teenager and you don't like you haven't like met as many people, and this is not to say that teenagers don't know themselves or anything like that, but
Mm,
like or don't have enough experience in the world to make a decision like this, but having a toolkit that age naturally gives you to handle really difficult questions like, am I trans? What's
mhm,
imposter syndrome?
mhm,
Um, how do I fight with my insurance to get testosterone or that surgery that's going to save my life? You know,
mhm,
when you're older, it's just a little easier to do those things, and like you know how to get the resources to do those things if you don't already have them. But if you're a teenager, your solutions are ask your parents
Mm.
and ask your parents.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, when you're younger, you're it sucks, but your identity is kind of in the hands of somebody else for a little while
exactly.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I do think, for older people who aren't on social media, it could be harder. It could feel more alone, like you're more alone, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like I said too, like earlier I mentioned like Reddit and all the forums and stuff. Like there are so many things that I would never have known how to do or like think about when I first started questioning my trans identity. And so like I was able to go and find these discussions on how do you know if you're trans, what types of questions can I start asking myself? Like, hey, can somebody call me Anthony so I can see how it feels to be called Anthony and referred to with he, him pronouns in a safe environment? Like, that's, you don't need to tell somebody in person, like in your real life, until you've had a chance to like test it out quietly.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of people use the internet and like Discord too, like as just like safe places to test things out, as you just said, 100%. And like somebody above the age of, obviously I'm bad with ages, I guess, but like somebody above the age of like 50, 60, I don't see a lot of them on the internet. Like, where's their safe space? How do they come out? How do they handle it? Especially in their generation, as a completely different narrative. They were raised differently. Like, yeah, I can't imagine that either.
Yeah, there's a couple subreddits. There's one FTM over 30 and FTM over 50, I think. And both of those, are meant to be that safe space for the older folks who do have kids or marriages or, all these things to consider when they're finding themselves as well.
Okay, so now the last kind of topic for the day. I know nothing about. You put it in the survey, and I was like, okay, this is a great time to talk about it because a lot of viewers have been asking me to talk about this for a while, and I can't talk about it until I have somebody who has more knowledge and has experience with it. But I've heard that and I've seen that a lot of trans men out there, a lot of them tend to be neurodivergent. And I've been wanting to talk about this for so long, but it feels wrong to talk about it because I'm not, and I don't have, the experience. So if you kind of want to take the floor a little bit and maybe share some facts with me and teach me a little bit, I would appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah, so I've heard a lot of the same like things, that being autistic or neurodivergent in some way is pretty common with trans people. And I've seen like a lot of Reddit polls where, like, obviously this is all like for the most part self-identification, but trans people don't really have a problem with self-identification.
That's so true.
Yeah, so but yeah, like the numbers are pretty high, and it can be really surprising when you like sit down and think about the reasons why autistic people may end up being gender diverse, or trans, basically, is another way of saying that. So I am not personally confirmed to be autistic, but I am very, very likely. Like, it might be apparent, throughout this conversation, and how I went about this Google Doc and everything is pretty autistic brained, if I'm being honest. So I got the tism, guys. In some way. Neurodivergent is a really like wide range of mental traits, I think, or psychiatric traits is a good way to phrase that. So it includes things like ADHD and ADD. Depression and anxiety are also pretty commonly occurring with autistic traits as well. OCD is another one. Schizophrenia is another one that fall under this same like umbrella. So I did a little bit of research, as autistic people have a tendency to do, about this topic.
I love it.
And I found a few like studies and things and some numbers, and I've got like citations and stuff in the document if you want them. But
Yeah, for sure.
what I found is that between 4.8 and 26% of people who have a gender diversity diagnosis or gender dysphoria diagnosis are also neurodivergent or autistic. Between 5 and 26% of people. That's such a
Wow.
huge range.
That is. I didn't even know it was that large.
Yeah, that's a
Wow.
massive number of people who are trans and autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes like from both directions. So trans people are more likely to be autistic, and autistic people are more likely to be trans.
Hmm.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's also evidence that shows that autism is very significantly underdiagnosed in cisgender females, as in like AFAB people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Women and like AFAB people have a tendency to mask super heavily because we face so much intense pressure from society to mask our feelings in public, to defer to men around us, to not take up space, to be quiet and not speak up. And all of those things, when those are expected of you, masking becomes second nature. And it makes it hard to diagnose autism when the masking comes so naturally, you know? And like if you don't know that you're masking your autism, it's as much of a surprise to discover that you're autistic as an adult as it is to discover that you're trans as an adult.
Yeah, I was just about to say, sounds a lot like, masking your uncomfortableness with gender dysphoria your whole life and then being just as surprised as everybody else when you
Yeah.
realize you're trans. Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And another thing that I was thinking too about, I think I brought up very much disliking the sensation of having a bouncy chest. Autistic people are really sensitive to many things, like hair length can be a problem. A lot of body hair for some trans men that are autistic can bother them because it's super overstimulating, those sensations to experience. And I think that like dysphoric sensations like bouncing boobs or ball sweat maybe could be really
So
triggering
fucking
for an
weird.
autistic person. Just I found a few other interesting like statistics or like side notes in my reading that says that actually, well, so there's some studies that suggest that trans men are actually more likely to be autistic than trans women. Some studies say the opposite, and some studies say there's no correlation because, of course, right? But the quote that I'm going to say is, "It has been argued that females with autism may therefore feel like they do not fit into a neurotypical female peer group, which may result in feelings of gender dysphoria." So autistic, like teenage, like females, AFAB people, don't fit in with non-autistic peers, like other women. And that's how the social dysphoria starts. Because they already know that they don't fit in. Like, I already knew that I didn't fit in with my peers because I was weird and nerdy and quiet and really painfully shy. And that kind of cued me into being different, right? And then, after repressing shit and masking super heavily as I grew up and everything, then finally coming into this idea as a trans person, I look back and I'm like, holy shit, I am both trans and autistic for my whole life, and I masked so heavily that I hid these identities even from myself.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of where the correlation between trans and autism comes in.
That's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. Like I don't know. It also goes to show that like that I don't know. That's not completely, but it's a very different experience from someone who isn't autistic. Like it's I don't know. That's a completely different thing that you had to go through and more you had to go through too, which I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I don't know. It's interesting to hear the numbers and I didn't know like cuz honestly there's a lot of people even in the Discord too that have said they're on the spectrum, they're autistic,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
neurodivergent, like, and as people started to join the Discord server, I was like, okay, like, wow, like, there's a lot, like,
Yeah.
I need to talk about this soon because, like, it's clearly a thing.
Yeah. I'm, and I would be really interested too to talk to a lot of those people in the Discord, about how they have handled being autistic and trans, and like things like, do the seams on your binders drive you absolutely up the wall because
Mm,
you're autistic? And so there's this like interesting balance between the things that we do to help our gender dysphoria and things that cause us to feel overstimulated, like body hair. Like I've read a lot of stories of trans men who are very reluctant to go on T because they don't think that they will be able to handle the increased body hair,
wow.
because of the way it feels or makes them feel.
Oh, that's like
Autism is
a
a crazy, crazy experience.
yeah, like
It's so interesting.
that's like that sucks though to like with
Yeah.
the wanting to be on testosterone but being afraid of those things like that is not
Hmm.
something everybody not all trans people have to go through that and definitely becoming more aware of it is important. I think I would
Yeah.
really like it actually if some people in the comments could maybe like you said like if there's anybody out there who struggles with binders and like the sensitivity issues and stuff. I would prefer you guys to comment below in if you're watching on YouTube in the comments below. If you're on Spotify, maybe doing a thing on Spotify instead of putting it in the Discord because I want people who aren't in the Discord to see that there are people out there too that
Yeah.
they're that they can reach out to maybe and like have a conversation with and there's somebody else to relate to. So leave a comment below if you can relate to what we're talking about right now. Not in the Discord. You can in the Discord, of course you can, but like also
Do
below.
both.
Yeah, do both. But thank you so much for sharing that with me and
Yeah.
because I didn't know any of that to be honest.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
It's really interesting stuff. And some of it I learned, just in this research too. Like I didn't, like I said,
Mm,
I'm not confirmed to be autistic or anything, but
mm.
I mean, there's just no way that I'm not at this point. So yeah, I felt pretty comfortable being able to express some of the information related to being trans and autistic. And obviously all of this is still being studied. We don't
Mm,
even know that much about being trans in the first place
true.
or being autistic in the first place. Like we still don't really fully understand how somebody becomes autistic or if they are born autistic or whatever. There's a lot of debate
Mm,
between what's the driving factor there too.
right.
Personally, I think that everyone is born with their autism and their transgender identity and their sexuality. I think those are just given traits that
Hmm.
our genes did something really weird. you
Yeah,
know
right. I do agree that if you're trans, you were born that way. I didn't know that there was even like a conversation if you're born with autism or not. I thought you were like 100%. I didn't even know that was like in question. So that's interesting.
it Yeah, it may be less of a debate now, but I know that I am not in this camp, but there are people out there who believe that vaccines cause autism, and
I
that
have
really
heard that.
bothers me.
I have heard that. Yeah, that's whack.
Yeah,
Sorry, but that's whack
yeah,
as hell.
yeah, it's insane. My husband is also autistic, actually,
Mm,
and so is his mom. And their theory is that it's not that vaccines cause autism; it's that when you're a small child and you're getting your first vaccine, that traumatic experience is what triggers the expression of the autism, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
when my husband got his first set of vaccines, his mom talks about how like poorly he reacted to, you know, being approached with a freaking needle as a tiny kid. And when autism gets really intense, you know, there's a lot of uh like really heavily autistic people have a tendency to kind of just like break down and shut down completely and not able to like function or communicate. And you know, then nonverbal autism is a very big problem as well. So yeah, I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but
No, but
I
it
think
makes sense. It does.
yeah,
I think it goes into like, you know, what we said before of it doesn't cause, these things don't cause you to be trans. They just make you, you know, show
exactly.
the symptoms of being trans.
Exactly. Yeah, it just reveals
Right.
the discomfort or whatever.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Again, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
You did include some articles. Are these in the Google Doc? Are
Yeah.
they articles? Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
cool. I will put those in the description below if you want for anybody
Yeah.
who
Sure.
is interested. Um, so yeah. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Of course.
Trans song of the week. Before we go,
Yeah.
tell me what you chose because I'm obsessed with it.
I chose "Lovely" by Billie Eilish and Khalid,
That's awesome.
and
I fucking
oh,
love that song.
it's such a fire song.
It's isn't it lovely? That one. Yeah.
Yep.
I watched that music video last night.
Oh, the music video
And
is so good.
yeah, and like I've seen that music video before. And even watching it, hearing the lyrics and watching them in the music video, I was like, this is giving so trans. Like, oh my God. Like, and I never
Right?
even noticed it.
Yeah. Like, holy shit. Just so much trans energy. And like, I think that the song was written to be about like a relationship, but the way I'm like thinking about it is like the voices of my identity and like of my life, I guess, you know. So like the two narrators of my life, there's this 32 years of this female voice and like learning who I am that's stuck in with this also existing male identity, this male narrator's voice, and like trying to find the balance. And like, you know, one of the lines of that song is like welcome home or something like that, like, and it strikes me every time. Like when I was debating which song to pick and like trying to figure out which one, because there were so many options, dude. I had such a hard time picking one song to share. So hard. But yeah, I was like listening through all these songs, and this one I kind of started to tear up a little bit, like when I was like trying to like think about my choice. The other one that got me by Billie Eilish was "What Was I Made For." That's the one that's from the Barbie movie, and I didn't know that was in the Barbie movie when I first heard that song. But holy shit, dude, that one hits too.
Oh my God. I think I have that song on fucking repeat every single day. And I've been waiting for somebody to bring that up.
So
Because
we'll
it's
make that the
giving
second one.
trans. No, yeah, right. It's giving trans. Like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah, hard.
but back to Lovely. I was listening to that and the lyrics were like, okay, like, yes, this is like giving like welcome home, like in the body that I want and like the gender identity that I want. And then you're watching it and it's Billie Eilish, who's a cis female, and what's his name? Khalid. And you have him who's I think a cis male. And like the way, obviously it's supposed to be about a relationship, I think, like you said, but it's like you're watching it and all of a sudden as a trans person, like you're watching it as like your past female self and your current male self, or other way around if you're a trans female. Like it go watch it. Like I'll put the link in the description below. Like so good. I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great song. Definitely check
it out. And now you did not add any socials, and that's cool. So if you want to talk to Anthony, come join the Discord because Anthony's in the Discord and you're very active in there, which I greatly appreciate. And yeah, that's about it for today. Follow me at HRT Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. And again, I just posted a video on Patreon with me and Nate reacting to hate comments. It's a whole other 2-hour long video. So if you're not subscribed to the Patreon, you are missing a lot of HRT content. I post all the time, a lot of content. I work really hard on it. So like, please, I would really appreciate it. And yeah, I had a good time with it, and I think everybody would get a good laugh out of it. And we definitely made something that was, kind of, 'cause getting hate comments is not fun. Nobody likes that, but I think we took it and we made it our own, and we laughed and had a really good time with it. So I would go check that out if I were you. Of course, I'm biased, but whatever. But yeah, follow me at HRT Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Subscribe to the Patreon. Join the Discord. You know the spiel. And that's about it. Anthony, I appreciate you being on today.
I appreciate you, Cody. Thanks for having me.
Of course, this was an awesome episode, and I drop videos every Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Please, I would appreciate it. And that's about it for today. Thank you, guys. Bye.